Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Wilde with Imagine Pediatrics Behavioral Health and Wellness. And today I thought I'd do a video on coronavirus because it's such a big topic in the news right now. And I speak not only as a pediatrician, but as a mother. So like many of you, I have received word that at the college that my son is attending, that they are specifically watching and taking measures to protect the students and keeping track of which students have traveled internationally, and just having that communication. It's easy to feel very anxious and on alert. I also have another son who's in Thailand, so when I got word that there was the first case in Thailand, then of course I felt concern for him. But I do think it's important to have perspective as we watch the news and hear all the stories. So a few points that I think are important for people to know are that the 2019 novel coronavirus is actually a relative to the virus that causes the common cold. So most of us have had the coronavirus and various strains multiple times in our lives likely. But I think the thing that is concerning about this virus is that it's something that hasn't been seen before. And so really we don't know exactly how the population will respond. Because as a virus changes, the immune system needs to relearn how to attack it. Now, virus particles, they're not living organisms. They are proteins covering genetic material, either DNA or RNA, depending on the virus that you're talking about. But that doesn't mean that they're not powerful. So they do take over the host cells and create little factories and replicate and cause all kinds of symptoms. So it can be very serious. But it's important to realize that even the numbers that they're presenting in the news are kind of hard to make sense of and to decipher, even for epidemiologists and medical professionals. And the reason is that when they say, this is the percent of people who are dying from this novel coronavirus, they actually can't give us a true number unless they were to test everybody and find out who had truly been exposed. So they're comparing the people who are showing signs of symptoms and being tested and coming positive with those that then eventually die from the virus. And really that is an overestimation of the mortality rate, because if you figured in all the people who have likely had milder symptoms or maybe are asymptomatic with the virus, then the mortality rate would actually be much lower. Also, when you compare the mortality rate of coronavirus, this 2019 novel coronavirus or Wuhan coronavirus, to other viruses and sicknesses that have been in the news, then you'll see that even with the perhaps inflated numbers, it's not yet as alarming as they're making it seem. So influenza typically has a mortality rate of 1%, and that's of people who are diagnosed with influenza and then eventually have severe symptoms and pass away. This novel coronavirus is estimated to have about a 2% mortality rate. So yes, it is alarming and it is higher than influenza, but yet it's much lower than other epidemic type illnesses such as Ebola, which is more like 50% mortality. So we do have to keep it in mind and recognize that the numbers are a bit of a guessing game, even for the professionals. Still, it doesn't hurt to play it safe and stay informed. So one resource that you can use is cdc.gov, and they have a lot of information about the novel coronavirus and the specific recommendations as new information is coming in. Another point I'd like to make is it's not everybody that is at such risk for this novel coronavirus. It really has mostly hit the elderly and people with underlying medical conditions. Now, this is still worrisome because most of us have people that we love who are elderly and have underlying medical conditions. But it still puts it a little bit in perspective that it's not everybody who is so susceptible to the very severe cases of this novel coronavirus. Now, the next point I'd like to make is that the advice that we've been given for years and years and years, just to be healthy people, to have healthy lifestyles, exercise, sleep, eating healthy, those things still apply and are protective. So the scientists have found that the people who seem to fight the novel coronavirus the best are the people who have underlying good health. So those healthy practices will continue to pay off. Also important are common sense infection control measures, like not going out and mingling with people when you're sick, covering your sneezes and coughs, and washing your hands. That's always super important. Also, limiting travel. You never know where you're going to get stuck, for one thing, but also it just complicates the exposures. So it likely is better to not do international travel when it's not necessary at this point. Finally, as a pediatrician that focuses on behavioral health, I'd just like to talk a little bit about worry, because we all hear about this novel coronavirus and sort of panic, but I submit that there's only a subset of the worry that we tend to carry that is actually productive. So that amount of worry that motivates us to behave wisely and safely, that amount of worry is useful to hold on to. Beyond that, it would do us well to let it go. We know that despite the commonly held myth, worry itself is not protective. It wastes a lot of energy, and it in fact can decrease our defenses. When we have a stress response, then cortisol is released, and in excess cortisol weakens the immune system. So ultimately, we're better off if we hold on to that little amount of worry that will help us be wise and safe, but let the rest go, because there's not a lot we can do. So I just wanted to make those points. Just to recap, this 2019 novel coronavirus is relative to the common cold. Also, the numbers are deceiving and a little tricky to decipher. Also, healthy habits pay off, like they have in the past, like they will continue to in the future. And worry itself, except to the amount that leads us to take wise action, will not really be protective. So hopefully we can put aside unnecessary worry and live our lives and do the best to connect with the people that we love, do the things that are most valuable and meaningful to us, and go forward.